something we all need. Gotta have it now if you wanna succeed. Striving, surviving, that's no doubt. Sticking together, we gon' find a way out. So all you young people, give it your all. So all you young people, give it your all. So all you young people, give it your all. So all you young people, give it your all.
Good afternoon, the back community. Thank you as always for staying involved. Thank you for staying engaged. We're in season 4. The theme for season 4 is Dream Bigger. The gentleman that I have in front of me today is a dreamer. He dreams big, but he also makes sure that the world collectively comes along with him with his dreams. And he lays it out for us in a way that he articulates his dream. And from the moment I met him, I've been able to follow it. So today's guest on the back community is Mr. Walter Thorne of the Albany Business Review Journal. And without further ado, I want to say, Walt, thank you for being on the back community. Thank you for affording me your time today.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you for asking me. It's an honor and privilege to be here with you, young man. Thank you.
All right. And like I said, I think the first time I might have met you might have been at Marquia's The Making of the Man conference a couple of years ago. The first time, and I think you were the keynote speaker that year. And without a doubt, blew me off my feet just to hear about your personal story, just to hear about your triumphs, and what you had to overcome to get to where you were. And I'll dive a little bit more into that later. But I can't introduce you like you can introduce yourself. So the very first question or the very first opportunity I want to give you, Walt, is for you to introduce yourself to the back community. Where are you from? What do you do? Tell the back community who you are.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, we did meet at the Makings of a Man with Marquia Robinson. That was the first time that we had seen that kind of thing in our community, where you have Black men assembling on a particular location to talk about things that center us, whether it be family, whether it be business, whether it be working, and that kind of stuff. So to back up to who I am, I define myself as a father of 7, first of all. I define myself as a lover of humans, all humans. And I define myself as somebody that is looking to give back in a world that needs some healing and needs some love and some grace and some empathy. So I'm from Poughkeepsie, New York, down in the 845 area. Yep, spent a lot of time down there. I was actually born in Jamaica, Queens. My parents are from Manhattan and the Bronx. And so my father was in law enforcement and spent 36 years in law enforcement. And my mom spent about 38, 39 years as an educator. And when my dad sort of got promoted and he went into Department of Corrections, he ended up in a place called Mariah Shock in Ticonderoga, New York. And if you know anything about that, as you're going up the Northway, like you get into Albany, right, which is, there's a lot of buildings, a lot of people around in Albany, and you get into Saratoga, you start looking around, and you're like, wait a minute, what's going on? And then you get to Glens Falls, and you see nothing but trees, right? And then you get to Lake George, which is pretty nice if you want a vacation. But I was like, why in the world they want to live up here? And to understand the upstate New York area, it's another hour north from Lake George. And so when you go there, you realize that there's nothing but cows and trees and water and so I was 18, 19 years old, and that kind of gave me the motivation to never move up there with my parents. So I was a young freshman in college. And so I decided to stay there. I decided to stay down in Staten Island, New York. I went to Wagner College and majored in music. And so I decided to stay down there and begin my life. And that turned into sort of a life of sales and entrepreneurship. And right now I'm currently the market president and publisher of the Albany Business Review, which is a business publication here in the 518 that specializes in business news. There's no politics. There's none of that other stuff in there. And the whole sort of foundation of what we do as a publication is we want to print things, we want to have events, we want to have digital and advertising that are rooted in people engaging with our content, but by engaging with our content, they're able to move their professional lives forward with more simplicity and with more information and more context to how they can grow their businesses. So that's kind of how I would define myself. And the most overarching thing is a lover of Christ. I definitely want to make sure I don't leave that out there. Without him, I would absolutely not be here. I would be nothing. And so, he informs a lot of the decision-making process that I use today.
Okay, I love it. And definitely we share that passion in common, because without God, I don't know where I would be. So thank you for taking a kind second to go ahead and lay that out. But
yeah, he would deal with me later in my prayers if I didn't take that time out right there. So
on the day you had a chance and you didn't do it.
Absolutely.
No, but dad of 7, a man who, for lack of better terms, I'm gonna say a lover of words, because I would categorize you as a journalist, right? And among all the other things, but what was it about journalism? What was it about words that attracted you, that also took you from your previous life of sales? Because if I remember hearing it right when you were speaking, was it, this could be in my mind, or was it actually vacuum cleaners at one point?
Yeah. So fun fact, I'm not a journalist. And I manage several journalists in my building. Actually, I manage the editor-in-chief in my building. She manages a team of 4 or 5 individuals that go out and do all of the content. I don't mess with her. I leave that whole thing alone because she's very talented at what she does as far as managing the content of that. I manage the direction of where we're going as a journal and public facing and that kind of stuff. But you are correct on a couple of things. One is, I spent 28 years selling rainbow vacuum cleaners for $3,000 a piece, door to door. I started in 1988 to make a little bit extra money. That turned into making about $10,000-$12,000 that summer. And if you know anything about being an 19-year-old kid in college, we took pizza jobs, we took, worked at, grocery stores in the mall and that kind of stuff. I couldn't go anywhere and make $10,000-$15,000 in the course of a summer, at $3, $4, $5 an hour back in the late 80s. So saw this vacuum cleaner, didn't think I could sell it. They told me that if I did 10 demonstrations, I would make, $300. And I knew I could do that. Like, that was one thing I can control. And you'll start to see a sort of a theme over this talk here, that I knew I can control the 10 demonstrations. What I didn't know if I can control is somebody buying the machine. So I sold my first one, made $300. My manager kind of got with me and said, hey, if you will fall in love with the structure and process that we have in place here, you'll sell more. And so I learned that and went and sold my next 11 out of 13. And that's where I became in love with words and structure and process and procedure. And that's what you hear when I'm talking, to a crowd. Words matter to me. Tone matters to me. How you pause matters to me. When you talk matters to me. When you don't talk matters to me. But words matter because no other time in my lifetime has a hand or a fight hurt me more than words. And when I look at what's going on in our business landscape, in our communities, in our schools, words are kind of tearing us apart right now. And to me, we need people to step up and make sure we take control back over the words that we use. There's power in the tongue, and how we deploy that for good rather than for polarization, for fringe benefits, and for divisive measures.
I love it too. And they say, being married and being in a relationship for now 11 years, I have learned tone, tact, and delivery. Okay.
Absolutely.
Matter, and they matter, and they matter. So I will
absolutely
everything you just said. Tone, tact, delivery matters. and also being able to realize that we all have influence, right? You can choose to will your influence in a negative way, or you can choose to will it in a positive way. And what I've seen you do over the years that I've gotten a chance to know you is you choose to will your influence in a positive way, whether that's seeing me seeing you keynote and speak at different galas, or being, like I said, at the Making of the Man conference with you, or just regularly following you on social media. You use your influence to you use yeah you use your influence in a positive way, and it's like, hey, well, you
Well,
know what? I want to be the representation of what I wish somebody was for me at the time when I needed it. And you always say
absolutely,
you teach people how to be their authentic self. Why is that so important?
absolutely. Well, listen, I think you hit it on right on the head. I'm more interested in influence than I am power. And at the level of where I sit, I see a lot of people in positional power places that have no influence. And so when I think of something like DEI, I talk to leaders of or positional powerful people that say, I really want to do X, Y, and Z with DEI. I really want to do X, Y, Z with my young people. But then when they try to implement these things and are met with resistance, what you realize is that power alone doesn't move the needle. Power alone does not set the culture right in your organization. And if you're a person with power and you don't have influence, to me, that wasn't attractive to me personally. You can have influence at every single level of everything that you do, whether if you're a janitor or whether you're the CEO, you can have some sort of influence. I know janitors that work at schools have more influence than any teacher in that school could ever have with making sure young people are acting right or living a certain way. So to me, that all that really matters. And influence at this level, as a man of color, I had to make sure I did not step into things that I dislike by people that I see and then enjoy this perceived power at the level I'm at in my position, and then use it in a way that's not building us up. That's not, my motto is together we rise. And the reason why that's my motto is because I need white people. I need women. I need white men, right? I need white men to understand the kind of position and the power and the influence that they have if they just use it to make us more integrated, right? As opposed to segregated. And, I'm encouraged that more than any time in my 50 plus years of living, that I'm seeing white men, take that mantra and say, you know what? Yeah, if it's to be, it's up to me. And so I'm going to use my positional power and my influence to make sure I am moving in the right direction. And it's a beautiful thing to see. It keeps me grounded. It keeps me dreaming. It keeps me really looking at what we can be as opposed to what we are.
I love it, and I'm thankful that we currently are in the space that we're in, right? I like to say after George Floyd's death, it opened up and it presented a lot of different opportunities for us to engage with things in real time. Of course, we're going through a global pandemic at the time, right? And everyone's forced to see all of these harsh realities that sometimes we like to pretend don't exist. But it forced us to also have those conversations, right? It forced us to have the conversations about what reality looks like and who can actually play a part in making reality better for the overall whole. So,
Absolutely.
to your point, it was just like, like you said, I need white men, I need white women, I need black women, I need black men, right? And in my experience, if you look at my profile, it says, I just love good people, right? I
Yeah,
have great friends that are white, black, Arab, Spanish, and some people say that cliche is, but if you look at the people in and out my house, I really do have it. And one of the things that I think changed that for me was studying abroad and living in Africa, right? Being able to get outside of here and realizing that those confines that we typically hold ourselves to here don't really matter as much when you get out in the larger world, right? And you really want to
absolutely.
meet good people. So I tell everybody, I don't care
And
where.
it also doesn't matter when you get promoted in your career and they need somebody to lead different personalities and different lived experiences, and you have none of that, and you don't really know how to navigate those complex issues that people are having because you've only dealt with one type of person your whole life. The pandemic that you speak of, if you think about it with a critical brain, at the very beginning of the pandemic, Black people were dropping like flies. Like, we had no real healthcare system. We had it exacerbated this thing that we were living in that was already there. And we always knew it was there, but it blew the lid right off of it. So, March, April, May, and June, it was like this big, and then you had Breonna Taylor, you had George Floyd. We're sitting there, literally held captive in our country and watching this 9-minute, 29-second video, on March the 25th play out, and what's interesting that people don't realize is the same day that George Floyd happened is the same day that the bird watcher in New York City made that false phone call and we didn't know at that time, 11, 12 o'clock when that was happening, that later that day, somebody was going to die because of a knee on their neck, passing a $20 bill where they could have just, 100 different ways that could have went. But, another thing I find interesting with those two things converging on each other, in December, there was no person more affected by COVID than women. Like, nationally, when you think about the different industries that didn't come back, it affected women more than any other industry in December of 2020, hospitality and things of that nature that are more women focused or have more women in that. It was hundreds of thousands of people that didn't have a job or lost a job in that particular period. So it hit all of us, at one time. So that is the reason why I go across population, across demographics, an LGBTQ community. It doesn't matter to me. I love everybody. And if we can get more of that, there's no telling what we can do as a country.
The world is a beautiful place. The world is
absolutely.
We got more in common than what separates us.
Correct.
What separates us. But I got to ask you one other question, and it's about and it's about the Albany Business Review. What is it like? Because I always like to educate the audience. What is it about the Albany Business Review that you think is the most underutilized fact about what you guys do there? How much you help businesses? How much you help get the correct word out? But please tell us the significance of the Albany Business Review.
So here's a very interesting dynamic for me. We have 45 journals around the country. So it's not just Albany. We have 45, Atlanta, Philadelphia, California, Florida, Minneapolis. When George Floyd was on fire, when that whole thing was on fire, I didn't know there was that many Black folks in Minneapolis. I didn't have, but we have a journal there. And in places where cities were burning, we had a journal there, and we have a responsibility to make sure businesses keep going, to make sure they're informed at a very high level, to make sure that we're presenting the facts and without a whole lot of opinion tied to it. But I'd like to take that question a little different, if you don't mind, because the words matter to me. Is what is the most underutilized part of the journal? See, there are people that are benefiting from the journal because they understand what the journal brings to their professional lives. Most of the time, these are men, over 60 years old that happen to be white. So if I'm going to answer that question in a way, I want to answer it in a way that Black folks, Black and brown folks that have businesses, that are in companies, that have ideas, that they want to, have a business, they want to dive into entrepreneurship, women that are figuring out certain things. To me, we're not utilizing that resource in its totality in different neighborhoods and different places where I walk around and people say, hey, can you write a story on X, Y, and Z? Which I don't do, by the way. And I'll say, hey, tell me the last article that you read. And they've never read the article. They've never read and what we are not is tell your personal story in our pages, and we're going to sort of print this in order to boost up your business. That's not what we do, right? So if I was really giving a sort of a suggestion, it would be to utilize that business source. When a building goes into a specific community, what does that mean for your business? What does that mean for your family? What does that mean for your property? What does that mean for different things that you're informing? What does that mean if you're an accountant? What does that mean if you are a retailer? What does that mean if you are, in a space that serves that community? And there's a plethora of things that can happen within one article that people are using, sort of like the best kept secret. And it would be interesting to me if we use it across demographics, across genders, across ages, how we could move this region in particular, the 518, the capital region of New York, what we could do if people were as informed as the white male 60 and over. There's no telling what would happen at that particular point.
And I stay involved with it myself, right? So I regularly get emails from you guys, and I'm in DC. So
Yep.
And it's like, because it's important to understand the different dynamics that I normally wouldn't see on a regular basis. So
Correct.
And I did not know that you guys extended further or beyond the capital region.
Yeah, we're in Washington and Baltimore. I would tell you, if you're there, dive into those markets as well.
Okay. All right. Well, let me see. One of the things I always like to do on here is I like to tell everybody we're professionals by day and what we do, but oftentimes we in our professional lives we never really get a chance to allow people to dive into who we are as the person, because it's probably just as equally important that people respect our boundaries and who we are as professionals. But I like to know a person's story and their journey. So I'm going to ask this next question, and this next question is pertain to the younger version of Walter. And the reason why I ask this is because people will see where you are right now, Walt, and not realize how much you had to go through, learn, experience to be able to be the man that's presented today. But if you were to think about your younger self, based upon the experiences that you have now, what is something you wish someone would have told the younger version of Walter that would have helped propel him or prepare him a lot sooner without some of the experiences? So talk to your younger self.
So I'm going to talk to my younger self with the certain authenticity that I always have when I answer questions. It's funny when I hear that question, what do I wish somebody would have told me? Here's the interesting thing. I was told just about everything. The problem is I didn't listen. My younger self didn't listen. And there was nobody in my life that could sit me down in a way. I mean, my hero is my dad. My dad did his best to set me up in the best way possible. I really wish I would have figured out the difference between selfish versus self-love faster. So I grew up as, you help your family, you do this, you do that. And I remember somebody particular in my life, the fella's name is Jim Jackson, and he was my distributor for Rainbow Vacuum. And I was going through some stuff, and he was like, hey, Walt, you got to take care of yourself first. And what I heard was, hey, Walt, you need to be selfish. Now, that's not what he said, right? And he didn't add context to it, but I just kind of, whatever. And what he meant to me was that if I don't take care of myself first, all the people I'm taking care of, if something were to happen to me or the wheels come off or something happens, then who's going to help me if I'm not taking care of myself first? And that having boundaries and setting expectations is really self-love. It's not selfish. And I really wish when I was younger, I would have understood that, because I did countless things and hours that I shouldn't have done for people that didn't reciprocate anything to my life, but I was being what I thought a giving person. And instead, what I was actually doing was taking away from my family or my kids, or my relationship, or, things that I wasn't really just cognizant and totally aware of, because I could mask it by, I got to do this thing for this person, because they need my help. And often that was not reciprocated. So I really wish I would have developed, I've got a group of men right now, they're my accountability partners. I really wish I would have developed that earlier in life and understood it's okay to take care of yourself first so that you have enough in the tank to take care of everybody else.
There's nothing to add to that. There's nothing to add to that. And it's funny because one of those people I'm sure who's probably in your circle just came to mind. And I'm thinking of Alfredo right now, right? And
Oh,
it's
most definitely.
listen, I don't know why he just came to mind, but I'm thinking about him, and I know one of the things that he's been on for the last year or so is putting himself first and just realizing exactly what you just said, that sometimes we end up overextending ourselves and we want success for other people more than they want it for themselves a lot of times. And we end
Yep.
up overextending ourselves, and it's something that most of us got to learn, right? And I try to tell younger people that I work with now, like, burnout is real. You don't want to experience burnout, right? So you can work with people, but also work with people who want to work for themselves. Like, I want to put in the work to get to develop this, to create this, to go this place, as opposed to at one point in my life where it used to be like I just wanted to help everybody, right? What that
Yep.
meant with my finances, what that meant with my time, what that meant with my resources. And it's like, you
Well,
go through experiences to learn that you got to put yourself first.
it's funny you should say that because, the truth be told, when George Floyd was murdered, I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a person that looked like me to talk me through that. I really didn't. My world was white, 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 white from a business and professional, because that's all I had dealt with. And I got to be honest, I was lost. And if it were not for Alfredo Medina, Dr. Alfredo Medina, and Jonathan Jones, and DeQuetta Jones, I don't know. I really don't know what I would have done in that period of time. I wanted to fight. I wanted to be bitter. I mean, what you're witnessing in real time is a person that Jonathan Jones understood in the moment. We could lose this guy like that. Like, this guy could become shouting and like everybody else like that. I mean, that's how mad and upset and unclear I was. And he added clarity to my thoughts. Yolanda Caldwell prayed with me. These are all people of color that I did not know the day that George Floyd was killed. I didn't know Jonathan. I didn't know Alfredo. I didn't know any of them. DeQuetta was the only one that I knew. And so, Jonathan Jones understood my potential. He understood I was hurting, and I called him and said, "Hey, I'm going to go march. I'm going to go do these things. And if anybody says anything sideways, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that." And he was like, "Well, first of all, Walter, you're 100 pounds soaking wet. So you can't be, you can't be out here, being this beast, you're too light, for that." He goes, "But more importantly, brother," he goes, "we don't need you out marching. Where we need you is in the boardrooms. Where we need you is talking to folks at certain levels that can make incremental changes and change procedure and policy and really dive into the culture." And that hit me hard. Like that's where the influence and power piece came in. But it was informed largely by those individuals that, worked with me, got me on a phone, and, taught me certain strategies and how not to leave myself open for things that would be targeted and weaponized against me and those type of things. My LinkedIn is very thought-provoking, but knock on wood, I've never had anybody challenge me in such a way that is reckless, because I think of God first. I think about my family second, and particularly my parents. And third, I think about if my kids are watching. If those things check, I press send. I know everybody else should be good. My job should be good. The community should be good. My relationship should be good. But as long as those three things check, but those people right there held me down in such a way that I owe a debt of gratitude in giving back to the community. And that's why you see me do my passion projects and have my mentees and that kind of stuff, because without them, I think I would have been skewed. I would have not understood the responsibility I have in this seat, in this role, in this time, in this community, I would not have understood it.
And rightfully so. Thank you to those people that you just named. Thank you to the community for realizing that you're way more valuable to us in this capacity than to add add to the fire that was already burning. And
Yeah.
that
And listen here, the truth of the matter is, I had Dr. Ramsamy reach out to me from HVCC. Hey, just want to make sure you're good. I'm talking about my first month. Javidan Rodriguez, the president of Albany, and these are men of color. But then I had Ruth Mahoney reach out to me from MBT Bank. One of my most valued relationships in this business community. I had, I met with a Michael Castellana and Chris McKenna from Broadview. Bob Schwartz reached out to me from Schwartz and Heslin and said, hey, we want to cover you. We want to make sure you're good. So this was not a Black thing. I sought out Black representation. I sought out people that looked like me because I really needed help. But let me tell you, there were some folks in town that don't look like me that were like, hey, let me call Georgia Kelly. There were people that reached out to me, Sujata Chaudhry from Tangible Development, one of my closest mentors right now. These are people at high positional powers that, wanted to really get to know me and then teach me rules of engagement, teach me how to lead and sort of put definition around different things that I had always done internally, but may not have known exactly why I was doing it. And they really helped me, with that.
leads me to my next question for you as you talk about defining.
Yep.
Probably my favorite question in all 4 seasons of the Back community. If you were to define success, how would you define successful?
So, success obviously is subjective. To me, if I'm defining success, it really depends on the person. It's not rooted in money. I don't know if it's rooted in one thing. I know some people that are happy with no kids, some people that have kids. If I'm defining success for me at this moment, it is to, although I am mentoring a lot of young people, to me, success will be getting my own kids to listen what I'm saying and take this information that so many young people in our community are taking because they know my position or know the influencer or whatever. Success to me is about being able to have impact and being able to focus on an end game. And while you're doing that, you're getting paid or you're getting money. Success to me is joy versus happiness. And to me, there's a differentiator between the two. Happy to me means it's happening to you. It's an up and down thing. I get a new job, I'm happy. I get a new car, I'm happy. But if that car breaks down, I'm not so happy. And, I lose my job, I had highs and lows. So I focus on joy. And to me, having peace and having joy is what success looks like to me. And after George Floyd, I did not know how to get that. I was not in a peaceful state. And those people that I already mentioned got me back to that peaceful state of joy and understanding what's around me. So to me, success can be a multitude of things, but for me, it's really rooted in my kids understanding the value of what I'm bringing to the table and listening, because that's not always, as you know, my stories, that has not always been the case. I had a son that called me Walter up until, 3-4 years ago. Now I talk to him almost every day. He calls me dad, tells me he loves me. There was a lot of loving and healing and stuff that when I played out in the community, I have no idea why I am the way that I am, but it is because when I look in the mirror, I had my own internal garbage and internal things that I had going on. And I'm proud and happy to say, since you last heard me at the Makings of the Man, him and I are 10 toes down for each other. Like, I'm really proud of him. He is doing very, very, very well. We're on the same page, and he probably is my most valued mentee. I mean, he is just ascending, and I've got a daughter doing that as well too. She's also, handling her business.
Hey, I love it. And it's the most important parts of us, right? It's like the the way that they see you work for the community and others is the same passion and the level, if not 10 times more than what you'll do for your kids. So congratulations
Correct.
on that. You give me hope for what is possible through God and with time and healing.
Yes.
Let me see. I want to do my fun round, which is called rapid fire. This
Okay.
is a very, very quick game for 60 seconds. I'm going to ask you some random questions. Nothing provocative, but to get to know
Okay.
Walter as a person. Are you ready?
I sure am.
All right. It's going to be fun. Um, um, if you were to choose your favorite sneaker, what would it be? What kind of shoes does Walter like?
Oh, they're definitely Air Jordans now.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
If you were to choose your favorite place to visit, what would it be and why?
Um, I my favorite place to visit would I want to go to Aruba. I don't know why though, because I've never been there yet. So it's something that has been a dream since I was 18, 19 years old, but Aruba is some place that I would like to go.
Okay. All right. If you had to choose a cheat meal, like let's say you're having a really swamp day, I need something as a pick me upper. What's your go to? What's your cheat meal?
Well, that's a great question. It's not healthy. It would either be a Snickers, or I'm hitting McDonald's. Like me and McDonald's, we got this thing going on, and I just stop there, get nuggets or a cheeseburger and some fries. But that's my cheat meal.
Okay. All right. All right. Let me see. If you were to choose your favorite artist of all time, who would it be and why?
Luther Vandross, because that if you don't know who Luther is, go back and Google that brother. Like there's whew, his voice, his style, his he was a monster, a beast. I love me some Luther Vandross. If I only could pick one, it would be him.
All right, let me see. Last question for you. If you were to say, what is your biggest fear? What has been a biggest one of the biggest fears for you? What is your biggest fear?
Oh, Tyrell. Um, I'm gonna stick with that authenticity. My biggest fear is retirement. I'm 54 years old. I didn't make good decisions, in the first 30 years of being in business. It was all 100% commission. It was eat what you kill. If you made 100,000 or 50,000 or 200,000, and I didn't take seriously that time. I thought I'd always be doing that and so on and so forth. So now that I am working at this level and this high level and seeing all my peers and whatever, my biggest fear, I think, has become worrying about my retirement. Good news is that I am actively working on that now, and I will, like every goal I set, I will kill that one as well. So, although it's a fear, it's false evidence appearing real. It will not be a reality. I will make sure that I end as well as I started.
All right, all right, all right. And thank you for the authenticity as always, and thank you for indulging me in rapid fire. To your point, I work with a lot of people on finances, right? And I also teach a faith and finance class at my church, right? And I work for Social Security by trade. A lot of people don't know that. Most people think that my claim to fame is my community work, but I've been with the federal government for this will be working on 18 years now, and
Wow.
so I look at a budget over maybe like 399, but maybe about 300 million this year, right? And
Nice.
talk about finances, but at one point when I was still in the field, I worked on retirements with people. And one of my biggest things was like especially for self-employed individuals, everyone will write off all of these things all of the time, but then I tell them, say, hey, listen, when it's time for you to retire and you got those big fat, tax returns, it's gonna
Yeah,
make it look like you went from making $100,000 and then you put down that you made about $30,000 or even less.
absolutely.
When it comes time to retire, you be like, hey Tyrell, why is my check so low? And I'd be like, well, look at all of those years. So, but I'm glad that you're
Absolutely.
actively working on it, and I'm glad that you're aggressively addressing it, because there's so many people in that space that still be like, hey, just because I did it wrong before, I got to stay down that path. And, I love individuals who learn how to pivot. As information comes, as knowledge expands, we can grow, we can change, we can learn, and it's never too late.
Well, it's funny. This conversation just makes me think about when I first met you, and I remember listening to you do the keynote at the 518 Elevated, thing, and you know, a lot of people don't know part of my strategic plan with Jonathan Jones and Alfredo was to come from behind this veil, so that people that look like me will do the same thing. And man, you've got it in spades, brother. Like when I think about what the next generation of people are doing and whatnot, it is, I believe good leaders are also good followers. And in most cases, learn to be a good follower in order to be a good leader. And when I see you and some other brothers, Ben Williams, Salah Harris, I can go on and on and on and on. It's unbelievable to sort of watch what's happening here in our ecosystem, the 518, and what the future could look like if we come from behind the veil, have conversations like this, talk about real, things that are challenging for us, and arm us to go out here into this world and become, citizens that add value rather than, take value away.
I like it. And it's just a matter of surrounding yourself with the right people. You know what I mean? I live by a philosophy called audit your circle, right? You're just as good as the people that you keep around you. So you want to audit your circle. And that's one of the things I learned over time, that everybody that's in your corner, everybody that's in your circle may not be in your corner. So
do you mind if I tell you one quick little story?
Yes.
So I have a dear.
I have another question for you. I got one other question after.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I've got a dear friend. Well, she's now a dear friend. She's an executive coach. Her name is Bonnie Boyce. And I met Bonnie Boyce right after George Floyd, and she was the head of the WPO, which is the Women Presidents Organization, which are a bunch of businesses and women-led businesses at $1 million and $2 million valuation. And she called me to ask me some questions that were rooted in, diversity, equity, inclusion, George Floyd. And I found her to be very credible, very loving, very, so for about a year and a half, we go on this relationship where I'm adding as much value as I can for her to inform certain decisions she's going to make. And I remember when I was going to apply for this job that I'm in right now, and I mentioned it to her, and she goes, "Hey, let's jump on a Zoom." I jump on a Zoom with her thinking that I'm going to be talking to her for an hour about diversity, equity, inclusion. This woman put me through a master class of questions. I had no idea what was happening. She was asking me questions about the bigger picture, leadership, your style, you're this or you're that. So we had this hour conversation. We come back the following week and we have another conversation. And I realized that this woman is coaching me. Like, she is literally pouring into me. Do you know this woman met with me for 11 straight weeks, every single Tuesday afternoon until I got named the market president? And I will tell you, had it not been for her, white woman, to pour into me, to sort of rip out, she forced me. One question she asked me took me 15 minutes to come to the right conclusion. She would not move on to the next question. And so the reason why I say that is because I think it is so important for us as a community to see people for what they can be and who they are, and then try to help them connect those dots. And I see very little of that. Had it not been for that woman, I would have had the same, experience. I don't think I would be sitting in this chair right now had she not given me information about what a 30, 60, 90 is and why that's important, and why the bigger picture, and why not to handle the weeds, and how to delegate, and smart goals. And man, it was just a master class of executive level coaching that, and I tell you that story because she was reciprocating what she had gotten over a year and a half of us talking about things that she was unclear of and needed some direction on. And if we can do that as a community, there's no telling what we can do moving things, forward together.
I love it. being mentored. Allow yourself to be mentored, right?
Yes.
You never know what God has in line for you. And I tell everybody, uh, uh, allow yourself to be used, right? Everyone chases money, they chase the dollars all the time. Say, don't chase the money, chase the relationships. Create the relationships, allow yourself to be used, allow your value to increase by you being used. You've been allowing yourself to be mentored, right?
Yeah.
Even at a later season of life, right? People genuinely overlook mentorship. Don't overlook mentorship, people. If you listen to this, mentorship is one of the key things that will get you from where you are to where you want to go. And it may not come with money up front, but don't chase the money, chase the relationship.
Yeah, somebody told me a long time ago, if you ask for money, you get advice. If you ask for advice, you get money. And you could take that any way you want to look at it, but you ask for advice, you get money. You learn, you skill, they like you better. It's a very good, authentic strategy because you're learning something by letting them pour into you.
Hey, listen, my final question for you before I let you leave the back community is thinking about everything that you've experienced up until this tender age that you are at right now. I know we're talking about retirement around the corner, but thinking about your experiences and everything that you've accomplished thus far, Walter, what about your life's path are you most proud of?
Wow, that's a great question. I think adapting and the zigzag. I'm when I did my job for 27 years as a vacuum salesperson, that's what I looked at myself as. I went interview after interview after interview when I left that company, couldn't get a job because I didn't see myself as a manager, a leader, a person that has hired over 1,000 people, person that has written manuals, and I just didn't see myself that way. And what I'm most proud of, to be honest with you, is persevering through those dark periods where I had no direction. There was no Alfredo, there was no Jonathan, there was no Bonnie Boyce, there was no Ruth Mahoney, no Sajada Chandri. There was none of those people at all whatsoever. And so being able to persevere through that period of time and then still get to where I'm at today, I'm very proud of that because people see the finished product without realizing I ain't finished. Like I am far from finished. I'm still learning, still evolving. And so I'm pretty proud of what people think they see, but they don't see under the surface of the work and the grace I had to give myself. The things I had to learn, the 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning research and study and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's what I'm most proud of. And then the second piece of that is that I never developed this character where I wasn't willing to give it away. I see a lot of leaders that don't want somebody to get better than them. Hopefully everybody that ever coached Michael Jordan needed to realize he was going to be better than they could ever be. And so I'm always looking for the next Michael Jordan or the person that's going to be in my midst that can be better. And I see a lot of leaders that hold back in tapping into that greatness for some personal reason, maybe reputation or whatever, but character always precedes reputation, always.
All right. Well, listen, Mr. Thorne, I want to say thank you. I want to be kind and respectful to your time. But I want to say thank you not only just for being on the back community today, but I also want to say thank you for being that character. Thank you for being your authentic self. Thank you for continuing to shine and continuing to peel back the layers in your own life because it helps you to be an effective communicator, the leader that you are, and the business space that you're in, and the leader that you are in this community. You are a person that is valued. You are a person that is respected. And thank you. I just wanted to give you your flowers on the back community.
Well,
thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. If I can leave your viewers with one thing, 99.9% of people that you come across with are doing the best they could possibly do with what they have, with what their lived experiences have been, with what their challenges are. There's so many people that show up to work in our midst, and we have no idea what it took for them to just get up in the morning and get dressed or take 2 buses or borrow money for gas because of a certain situation. I think we take a lot of those things for granted. And if we were to pour into them and skill them and cover them and just help them see a different way out, the retention in our offices, the retention in our buildings, the retention in our companies, in my opinion, will be multiplied for sure. And if we can start to understand what that looks like in certain parts of our staff, you'll see them grow and want to be a part of that organization. And so I thank you for the platform. I thank you for allowing me to share those things. I will reflect after this and think about some of the stuff that we talked about, because that's just how I'm built. But I appreciate you, young man, and appreciate what you're doing in the community. And appreciate you giving us a platform to talk about it and get closer.
Hey, thank you very much, and thank you for being on the back community. I look forward to getting your story out to the masses. Enjoy your day. I'll play catch up with you next time, man.
Sounds good, brother. Appreciate you. Peace.
Keep climbing up the ladder. A Black Lives Matter. It matter. So all you young people, give me all. 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 Matter. A Black Lives Matter. They matter.